See, this is exactly why you don't pick up strangers while driving down the road. Okay? You don't. This is why you don't pick up strangers. Just saying. The Hitcher tells the story of a man played by Thomas Howell who picks up Jim Halsey, who picks up a man supposedly named John Ryder from the side of the road, and when he does, it proves to be a big problem because this guy causes hell for him. Along the way, I should say, he meets up with a woman named Nash, and eventually is also chased by the police as well as Ryder. And yeah, so this movie, I'm saying we need a quality Blu-ray release of this movie. I'm just saying, because this is just a DVD, standard. I mean, it's in widescreen, but like, we need a Blu-ray release. Serial Factory, get on that, man. Get on it. But anyway, yes. This is a movie that isn't talked about much. It's one of those underrated classics from the 80s that I feel should be watched. It got a remake in 2007 and a sequel in, I don't know, the early 2000s, I want to say, which is weird. I will be looking at both of those in the future. Actually, you'll get my review for the second one today, hopefully, if I got this planned right. You should. But, yeah, so this movie wastes no time, man. You get the atmosphere. You get to see Thomas Howell, as our main character, Jim Halsey. He's driving down the road, and he picks up this guy that's just off the side of the road. And guy says his name is John Ryder. He's played by Rutger Hauer. And immediately, as soon as you pick him, as soon as the stuff, he just starts acting weird. Because Jim keeps asking, so where you going? And he doesn't say anything. He asked like 3 or 4 times, are you going to tell me where you're going? But, yeah, they come across this car. Like, okay, so the one thing that I like about this is that they don't really tell you what his motives are. He's just doing this. But from what I gather, I think he's just looking for a worthy opponent. That's why he keeps going after Jim. Because Jim gets away. Jim is on the run. Jim keeps fighting back. And so he keeps going after him and after him. We're presented with this scenario where, what happens if someone doesn't fight? Because there's this car on the side of the road that stops him from stopping and, getting to. And he's like, I killed that guy in that car. I cut off his arms, cut off his legs, and I cut off his head. And so basically, like, this guy didn't fight back. This guy just, let him take control. Halsey fights back, and so we have the struggle throughout the film. And I think that's what he wants. He wants, Halsey to stop him. He wants someone to stop him. Basically, I think that's what he wants. Even towards the end of this movie, where you have this, he's getting taken away in this prisoner transport. Halsey could just drive off with the police, and that'd be it. Right? But Halsey knows by now that it's not going to stop until Ryder is dead. It's not going to stop. He's going to keep coming after him until either Halsey is dead or Ryder is dead. One of the two. So he has to finish this. And it works. I also like the sort of relationship they have with Jim and Nash. There are chance meetings. He happens to get to this diner and ask for the phone, and she just so happens to be there, right? And then he gets on this bus later, and it just so happens to be the bus that she's on, and they get connected, and so she helps him because she believes that in some way, like, the police are wrong. And I like that. And there was supposed to be, they run away and they end up at this hotel. There was supposed to be a sex scene, but Jennifer Jason Leigh actually said, no, don't do that. And it works better that way, without the sex scene, because it's very stereotypical for these two to meet up and then there's going to be a sex scene, but they don't know each other. They haven't spent enough time with each other for that to happen. Yes, I know in movies and stuff you can have spontaneous sex, but it's not really necessary here. Like, it wouldn't it wouldn't really make any sense. You know, I know sometimes you get situations like this where people meet on the road, there's all this tension, and that leads to sexual tension, but it's not really needed in this, you know? And there's some great action scenes, great car crashes, you know, wonderful scenes like that. There's a lot of there's very little gore in this, which some people would say, oh, it's rated R, but there's no gore. They took out a lot of gore. But I think that adds to the positivity of this. It adds to the movie. You know, it's what you don't see. Less is more. Especially one scene where they catch up, like where Ryder catches up to them. He kidnaps Nash and puts him between these two big rigs, and he's gonna drive off, right? And it happens. He's like, he's big, Halsey gets in the cab with him, the cab of the truck. Basically tells him to stop. He's got the gun, but he can't shoot him because if he shoots him, his foot will go off the pedal, and they'll, So he just does it anyway, and you don't see it. Like, it starts. You hear a tearing noise very shortly. It's like, but you don't see it. And I think that's more effective in this. It's like, oh my God, you don't see it. You don't see a body. You don't see anything. You don't see aftermath. Nothing. That's great. I think it works great. And you got great performances too, from C. Thomas Howell and Rutger Hauer, and to a point Jennifer Jason Leigh, but she's doing this accent. Like, okay, it's like a pet peeve with actors doing fake Southern accents, especially like if you know that that's not the regular accent. Now, in later movies, Jennifer Jason Leigh can pull off that sort of accent. Here, no. Like I think she sort of has an accent like that in Annihilation. I think she sort of has that kind of twang. But here, it sounds fake. Like, what movie was it where there was like a British actor and he was doing a Southern accent? And it's like, that's not your accent. Just do a regular American accent. I don't know. I don't remember what movie it was or TV show, whatever it was. But for the most part, she's pretty good. As this character was just thrown into this. She doesn't know if she can trust Halsey, but, she can see the desperation on him that he just wants to prove his innocence, and maybe that's enough for her. She's just this waitress at a diner that just so happened to run into this guy. And then you got the cops, who are just trying to do their job. But this gets into my negatives a little bit, because it's one of those cases with movie cops and TV cops where they think they have their man, they won't listen to anything other than what they believe, and they'll just go after this. Because, Ryder has framed Halsey for this stuff, basically. And so the cops are after him. But it does kind of start weird. He's the one that calls the cops and says there's this guy, this hitchhiker that's after him. And then when they show up, they arrest him without letting him explain anything. But he was the one that called him. And why doesn't Nash say anything? She could come out and say, hey, he's the one that called you. He's Jim Halsey. He's the one that called you. And there's this whole thing with Rutger Hauer, Ryder, has taken his wallet with his ID and driver's license and stuff in it. So they can't prove who he is. But, like, fingerprints, man. Fingerprints. Like, you could do fingerprints. You could do that. To prove who he is. But, like, I don't know. They just don't give him any chance to do it. To explain anything or to prove his innocence. And it doesn't help that the writing of this is a little bit iffy to me. Like, he could have easily gotten off the hook. He gets 2 phone calls. And somehow, both of those phone calls don't work. The first one, they're calling the rental company. All they get is a message saying, we'll be open at 9 p.m., 9 a.m., whatever. And then they call his brother, and there's no answer. It's like, one of those calls should have worked or something. It's too convenient that, like, out of both calls, neither of them picked up. Like, if you only call two people, one of them is bound to pick up. I'm just saying, it's too much of a coincidence just to keep this plot going. And while we're talking about conveniences to keep the plot going, somehow, some way, Ryder always finds him. Everywhere he goes, he's right there. Like, he goes to this diner in the middle of fucking nowhere, right? Starts eating his breakfast. All of a sudden, there's a finger in there. How the hell did he find him? How the hell did he get in the kitchen? How the hell did he get the finger in the food? It makes no sense. And it's so convenient that he just finds them everywhere. The only time that it makes sense is when you see him. You see him watching them when they take the cop car and drive off. So, okay, he must have followed them from the bus, right? He must have followed them, saw them get on the bus, followed them there. He's watching. He follows them to the hotel. He kidnaps Nash. That makes sense. But none of the other times in this film do you see him follow them or even know, where he is. And that kind of adds a supernatural aspect to it. But at no point in the film did I ever think he was a supernatural being. It's just, I don't know, it's just too convenient for that to be a thing. It's very creepy. It's very, in that kind of supernatural like thing, but it just doesn't work for me. Overall, I did enjoy this movie. Can't really explain most of it anyway. I did like the score, even though it was kind of generic, but it worked. And the tone, like there's a lot of times where it's at night, and it's and there's great. There's good cinematography. There's one thing I gotta point out. So when they go to the hotel room, she's pretending to be asleep. You can see that her eyes are open, but I guess she's pretending to be asleep. He goes to the bathroom to take a shower, right? He flips a switch, and it turns the TV on. Now, this is 1986. Obviously, I wasn't born yet. This is a year before I was born. Did they have that in hotel rooms? Light switches that turn on the TV? That I've never seen that. I've never, in any film or any hotel I've ever been in, have seen that where you flip a light switch and it turns on the TV. That's just weird to me. But then again, I got a question. They're on a run from somebody by the cops and John Ryder, and he's just gonna take a fucking shower. I understand he's been like running for a few days. He hasn't had to take a shower. He's got blood and dirt and whatever all over him. I understand you want to get clean, but you're being chased down by the cops and by Ryder. You got a stolen cop car out there. You got Ryder chasing you down. You know that he finds you wherever you go. You're gonna let your guard down and go in the shower. Again, that's another convenience. He's just gonna go in the shower because we need him to be out of the way so that Nash can get kidnapped. That's all that is for. And I feel like he's been really smart up to this point in avoiding his way and being on his way and avoiding Ryder to a point where like he's sort of fought him off. Ryder's always there where he goes. There's a point that he's at a diner waiting for coffee and he just walks in and he's right there. It's like, okay. But like, yeah. And so being that he seems to be everywhere you go, why would you then abandon the person you're with to go take a shower? And let your guard down. And like, did I not lock the door? Or did he just find a way to get in? Jimmy the lock? I don't know. But it's really a nitpick, if you can tell, but it's fine. But I did enjoy this movie. I thought it was really good. There are little problems, but it's not going to bring that down or anything. I'm going to give it a pretty good. Because it is actually pretty good. I do recommend it. You need to check this movie out, because it's one of those movies from the 80s you don't hear a lot about. I'm probably going to rewatch it again in the future. I think it's pretty good. Yeah. So, what are your thoughts on the Hitcher? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching. I've been Scotty, and I'll see you in the next one.